Today is January 3rd, and this is the Hawkins County Board of Education. I'm Debbie Shedden, the Vice Chairman. Our Chairman, Mr. Bob Larkins, is ill tonight, so we hope a speedy recovery for him. If everyone would please stand for a moment of silence, and Nisha French and Evan Mays from Volunteer High School are going to lead us in the pledge afterwards. Thank you.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Phillips, if you would read the conflict of interest statement, please.
Yes, Madam Chairman. Those of you that acknowledge you have a personal and/or indirect conflict of interest, do you acknowledge that conflict of interest for all actions and purposes of this meeting? And do you further acknowledge that all your votes will be in the best interest of the school system?
I do.
Let the record reflect that all have on both conflicts.
Thank you. The next item is the approval of the minutes of the December 13th, 2018 board meeting. Do I hear any motions to approve that?
So moved.
I have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Jennifer, would you call the roll, please?
Point of order, don't we get to discuss it?
Certainly. Would anybody have any discussion?
Yeah, I do. I would like to make a correction to the minutes on the motion that dealt with the vacation
Okay.
to be corrected on the last line that says, and then where it continues on in the process, and I don't have for some reason I don't have my copy in front of me, but the latter part of that was an addition by our board chairman. It was not a part of the original motion.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I had mine, but for some reason I misplaced it and all this other stuff.
Okay. I'm gonna read the paragraph that was in the minutes. Bob Larkins requested that Debbie Shedden review Matt Hickson's request to modify his beginning date for him to begin work from January 1st, 2019 to January 31st, 2019, due to the fact that his wife's surgery had to be rescheduled from December 2018 to January 2019 due to complications from pneumonia. Additionally, Mr. Hickson requested that the board recognize his prior educational experience in order for him to obtain the number of vacation days each year that a current Hawkins County Schools 12-month employee would earn, given his or her same amount of experience. With Mr. Hickson's current year's experience, he's currently in his 17th year, he would earn 1.75 days per month, which would equate to 21 days per year. According to a salary scale that had the vacation days listed by year's experience, Mr. Hicks made a motion, make sure I'm in the right place here. According to a salary scale that had the vacation days listed by year's experience, current Hawkins County School employees with 10 to 19 years experience earn 1.75 days per month. Mr. Hicks made a motion to pull from line 2 vacation days and then continue down to the line where it starts with the director's prior years of service will be provided for the purposes of vacation day 1, and at the beginning of his 5th year, he would be eligible for consideration of another 5 days of vacation at the beginning of his 5th year of employment. Mr. Hicks amended his motion for Mr. Hickson.
You went silent.
I went silent here. Mr. Hicks amended his motion for Mr. Hickson to receive 15-day vacation days for the first year, beginning his first day of employment. At the beginning of his 2nd year, he will receive 21 days of vacation and begin following the schedule for earning vacation days. The motion was seconded by Bob Larkins. All in favor, all board members have stated aye. All opposed, like sign. No board members responded.
But that was not the gist of the conversation. Mr. Larkin added that progression at the end as a reiteration, and that was not what we discussed. What we discussed was putting the director's vacation solely at the discretion of the board, that there was no progression, and to take that as an economic issue in the contract with our director of schools, because the director of schools is the only employee that we employ. So therefore, it should be part of our ability to direct that on the incentives of how well we progress from year to year in our school system as a whole. And that was what the conversation was. If you go back and listen to it, I did. I went back and listened to it, and that was what we talked about. And what that last line was a reiteration from Mr. Larkin. And as you well know, there was discussion over phone and everything else after the meeting about that from our chairman. Therefore, I want that straight. I want it to go back that it, as it was proposed, that it would be as we initially proposed it. It would be 15 days from day 1. And at the beginning of the 2nd year, it would go to 21 days, and then it would be at the mercy of the board how it progressed from there. And that was the way we discussed it. And that's the way I voted for it.
You want the minutes to reflect?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's the way it was.
Okay.
That's the way it was discussed.
Would you like to amend your motion to reflect what he is asking?
Actually, I believe it was Mr. Hicks's. I think his.
Oh, for the minutes. Yeah.
I think Ms. Hilton made the motion. Mr. Hicks had pulled the item. and I believe you made a motion
To approve the
to
minutes.
approve.
The minutes.
I'm sorry, well, I mean, his discussion about the contract last month. And there was a second, is that right? Then it did go into discussion from that.
Mr. Hicks made the motion and Mr. Larkins.
And what he's saying is correct. It was confusing listening to, trying to get through this, and I think that's where some of the confusion came with some of the phone calls. Mr. Hicks made the motion. He said, let's do this. I amend my motion to the first year, day one, when he comes to work, that we award him 15 days vacation. In the second year, that it go to 21. And then Mr. Larkins says, follow the schedule. That's what I could understand. And Mr. Hicks said, right. And then Mr. Larkins says, I think you all talked about where the information was located. That went on. Then it was coming to a vote, and Jennifer said, I need a second. And Mr. Larkins said, I second it. Any further discussion? And he asked Jennifer, he said, did you get that? Jennifer read the first year 15 days and the second year 21 days. And Mr. Larkins said, and he will follow the schedule that we prepared. All right, all those in favor of approving a contract with the amended motion that has been made, let it be known by saying aye, and then the board members voted aye. And Mr. Larkins said opposed, like sign. No board member responded. I think where the confusion came in is when that first motion was made, and Mr. Larkins said, follow the schedule, and then you came back and said, right. So when
But that was not the gist of the conversation, because if my memory serves me correct, it was Mr. Christian who came back and made the suggestion to go to the 21 days in the second year. That's what it says on this recording. So then that's when I amended my motion, but my motion amendment was in the idea that this board would take charge of the director's vacation, and it would not follow any progression other than as dictated by this board. Now, if we have to go back 30 days from today and reopen that, then I'm all for it and correct it, but we can't do it tonight.
But what he is saying, his words were exactly what he says in that with his motion. And again, when Mr. Larkins came back with follow the schedule, and again, I could be, when we listened to it, because we were trying to figure out the motion, not the intent, but what what was really said. And then when you came back with right, that may have just been.
Well, you know, and we have this conflict with policy too on this, that I don't know how we're gonna answer that. And because that's gonna go back a long ways, and it's gonna cause us a heartache somewhere down the road, based on what our policy says about that.
I did a little research, and our policy 5.310 uses the word with. It's in, shall receive vacation in accordance with their years of experience with the Hawkins County school system at the following rate. Well, in order to stay within our policy and grant our new director available vacation days, I was in favor of Mr. Hicks's motion. Now, following up, I was told, with doesn't matter here because there's a state law saying we can accept years of service, but, if I may, checking with attorneys in Nashville, they can find no law. So
Mr. Hicks is correct in what he said at the last board meeting, that as far as what you all want to do as a board with Mr. Hickson's contract, you can do as a board. in setting that. I mean, you know, you can give him 30 days if you want to.
Right, and that's where the
So
21,
that's,
the
I mean,
21 days came from. If we were to have that, use that experience, it would equal that, but we're still within our
well,
policies.
he's here, but, and I've not been in on any negotiations with the contract. That's your all's job. But if I'm remembering correctly, when you first spoke to it, Ms. Shedden, Mr. Hickson was requesting that you recognize his year's experience.
Correct.
So that he could fall under this policy. And the board can do that. It's the board.
Well, the way Mr. Hicks made his motion to grant vacation days, I feel like falls within our policy. We're not in violation of our policy.
No. Again, what Mr. Hicks said, you all can set the contract. You can set that up any way you want to.
Correct, but by what was added to the minutes, if you could read that part again, it says, well, Bob said we'll start following the,
Well, again,
yes, that would put us in violation because state law, unfortunately, we can't recognize 10 years of experience out of state.
Even our system, as I understand.
That is true, yeah.
I would like to know where it originated. Somewhere, somebody made that decision somewhere outside of this board, and it could have been years and years ago, or the board did it and they didn't put it in policy. But
I can't answer that.
well, I can't either, because all we have is what policy we've got now that says within the system. So, you know, that, and I'm not trying to do an injustice to anybody. I was trying to get it to where Mr. Hickson wouldn't come in here and not have any vacation, because I've negotiated contracts before, and I know what it's like to go to a new job and not have any vacation. After you've worked for 17 years in his case. And I just didn't feel like it was fair, but I think it's an entity that this board ought to have control of. In the place of whether it's Mr. Hickson or whether it's the next director of school or whoever it is down the line, to where the board negotiates not only salary but vacation and everything into the policy, into the contract, so that we know where we're going, and for that matter, we can hold it over his head if we wanted to. Say, well, look, you're not doing what we want to do. We're going to give you another year, but we're not going to give you no vacation. It's kind of one of those things. Then you know where you stand. And there's a lot of other things that I think that we need to talk about when we get into our retreat about those things. But right now, all I'm asking you to do is take the schedule thing out, and we will determine the progression of vacation as a board.
Take the 15 days and the 20 days.
No. That stands. The 15 days the first year, or day one, whatever day that is. I'm just poking. Plus, at the beginning of the second year, it goes to 21 days.
And that's the beginning of the third
And
year.
at the beginning of the third year, if we decide that we want to, since we've got 2 years of the contract gone, we can do a contract renewal, we can do whatever we want to, we can, whatever we want to do. Then, depending on the performance of the director of schools, we can say, hey, look, we're going to give him 3 more days vacation. And that turns out to be the sky's the limit.
Right, because he is a unique employee.
And he is the only employee that we have, and we should control that. Not to control primarily him, but that we have, that as a part of the bargaining tool that we will use in the future with future directors. And I apologize, Mr. Hickson, I didn't intend to put you on the spot tonight, but I want this to be right. I want this to be where this board begins to take some charge of what we can take charge of.
Well, it's actually on unfinished business, and I was going to let Mr. Hickson speak to us on what his wishes were.
Well, I don't know that that's appropriate, since it wasn't on our original agenda.
Well, and two, Mr. Dixon, you can certainly speak, but we can take no action.
Right. Right.
Because if I'm, am I correct in saying, if I may, you have signed our contract?
Correct.
So technically, you are an employee with the start date of January 31st.
Correct.
So really, we can't take any action or discuss anything with and Mr. Phillips, I may be
The contract,
mistaken
that's
here,
right.
without giving 15 days notice to the public.
If you're planning to try to change the contract, of course, you can't change the contract without his consent if you've already committed.
He's already signed it, but now the question has arisen, what's the verbiage in that contract based on the minutes that, from the last month's meeting? Sounds like, if I may, Ms. Vice Chairman, if I may, I think we need to get the contract committee together,
Okay.
talk about this,
Okay.
and we'll get it worked out appropriately into everybody's best interest.
See where you want.
And move on that way. That would be my suggestion.
Okay. Now, it's still on the table. Do you want the minutes amended?
I do.
Okay. Then we're gonna have to,
Have to have a motion in a second, and vote on it.
I'm sorry, but how this reads is exactly what I voted on.
But I didn't. That's not what my vote was not for that contract.
I understand.
And if there hadn't been a controversy about it, we would have never been discussing it over the telephone.
And I was uncomfortable with that.
I was too.
Um,
Because I was out in the middle of nowhere when I got the call. And I was not prepared for the conversation as it was, and after I had an opportunity to think about it, I realized it was totally inappropriate as far as I was concerned. It should have been something that should have been handled probably by the contract negotiating team or committee rather than calling all the board members or texting all the board members.
Keep in mind now, you're gonna have to adhere to the contract unless he agrees to it. Whatever the language says in the contract, you're bound by unless you negotiate with him and he agrees to the check.
Yeah, because he signed it, it's in there.
That's
But
what
it's an
I'm
incorrect, in my opinion, it's an incorrect contract.
Absolutely. So in that case, are we looking at a voided contract? Because the language is not correct in what we voted on to do.
You're bound by what you agreed to.
I realize that, but I didn't, what is alleged that we agreed to is not what I agreed to.
As I understand it, you agreed to the contract and it was signed with the board's overall agreement.
Well, I just found out the contract was signed.
Yeah, me too. I didn't know it was signed,
it was sent by email to all of us.
not to me.
It wasn't sent when it was signed.
Oh,
That wasn't sent to me.
okay.
So what I'm saying is the language, and it's, you may, a lot of people may consider it a nitpicking thing, but I don't, because it was, the whole idea of talking about it at the last board meeting was to get that in the perspective of getting that particular issue dealt with so that Mr. Hickson wouldn't come in here day one with no vacation. And then as it progressed along, and then Mr. Larkin was the one who made the statement, which was not a part of my original motion, of following the schedule. That was not part of my motion, and you can go
Is that
listen
in
to
the
the
contract or not?
Well, no,
That needs to be reviewed before you decide whether.
that's why we just need to take it back to committee.
I think that's a good
We
idea.
need, yeah, we'll take it back to the committee.
Just take it back to committee.
Let's table this vote and take it back to committee and vote.
Also move.
Holly has a motion on the table to approve the minutes.
Well, I'll amend the motion to approve the minutes to table the minutes.
Second.
Okay. Jennifer, call the roll.
So you're not approving the minutes at all the minutes?
No,
December meeting.
We don't need to take all of them.
yeah, we do.
Okay.
How do you table part of a meeting?
And then that way it goes back to the minutes.
If we're not gonna fix the minutes, they're broke. They're broke as a whole.
Jennifer, call the roll, please.
So this is for tabling the minutes.
Correct.
Hicks,
Yes.
Hilton,
Yes.
Craddock,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
Christian,
Yes.
Shed.
Yes. We will call a committee meeting later.
Okay.
Who is that committee?
I'm not on it. All of us if we want to be, but
Want to be.
there is a specific committee. There is a voting committee.
Okay. At this time, we're gonna, go to recognitions, and I'm gonna recognize Dr. Bailey.
Ms. Shedman, members of the board, I would like to recognize Hope Malone, principal of Churchill Elementary School, and her staff.
I need to speak into the microphone. Dr. Raymond, speak into the microphone. Good evening. My name is Hope Malone. I am the principal at Churchill Elementary, like Dr. Bailey said, and we are here tonight to not only recognize but to honor our dear friend Jody Hall, who passed away this past October. Jody was not only our data clerk at our school, she was our first face of Churchill Elementary. She was our heart and soul of Churchill Elementary, and we thought what better way to show how much she cared and compassionately cared about those children at Churchill Elementary. Before I get into the logistical pieces of all that encompasses what we're about to present, I have one teacher that would like to speak on Jody's behalf.
And I will try my best to separate personal friendship from professional working career. Jody and I worked together for over 25 years, and during those 25 years we became very close friends. And but Jody was the person at our school. I feel like that everybody, regardless of who you were, could go to her and she would help you. She would do anything that she could to help anybody, and especially the children. She had invested. She didn't just work at our school. She invested her life into our school and into the children. And for that, I will be forever grateful. And I had wrote down this verse that a man that hath friends must show himself friendly, from Proverbs chapter 18. And Jody was certainly that. She was a friend to everybody. And like I said, she had invested so much of herself, not just in things that she did, but of herself, her time, and that she spent, and the things that she did. And, you know, she worked in different aspects of the school. She worked as an instructional assistant. She worked in the office. She was my personal assistant in my grade level for several years, and that's, I guess, when we became the closest. And so I've had the privilege and an honor to see her in many different facets of her life, and as well as a parent of her own children at that school. And I can remember when I had Matthew in class in 4th and 5th grade. And, you know, so I got to see that part of her too, and how much that she not just invested in her own children and their lives, but the children that went to the school, and because she worked there and she wanted all of the students to excel and to have everything that they needed in order to do that. And she was just a special, special lady. And just some things that I had wrote down, you know, from the kids' point of view. To go to the office was a treat for the students when they were going to see Miss Jody, because they knew that she could fix anything, from a tummy ache to a scraped knee to being homesick, or if it was a behavior problem. They loved to go see Miss Jody because they knew that they were gonna get a little pep talk, and she was gonna tell them, you know, she was gonna encourage, and she was gonna give her expectations of what she wanted them to do, what she wanted them to be. She was gonna love them and hug them, and she was gonna tell them that she loved them, and they were gonna get that from her. And then, of course, before they made it out the door, they were going to get some kind of piece of candy. I mean, that was just they knew where she kept the candy, and they expected that from her. And, you know, and that smile on her face, they could have done whatever or be feeling, I mean, I could be feeling bad and walk into the office, and she just made me feel better just because of the smile on her face. And just her voice, you know, she had just a very calming voice. And as a matter of fact, before I came in here tonight, I called our school answering machine because her voice is still on that machine, and I just needed to hear it. And so I called that number just so I could hear my friend say, welcome, you know, good afternoon, this is Churchill Elementary. I just needed to hear that from her today. And I'm very proud of our school, and I'm very proud of Miss Jody and what she stood for. And I'm proud of how much of her life that she invested in our school and in our children. Not just her children, but all the children. And she knew them all by name. And they all felt special when they went before her. She was just a very special lady and a very special friend to me. And her family will never know or never be able to realize how many people that her life has impacted and how many people that her life has touched during her years at Churchill Elementary. And I'm very thankful that Miss Malone's going to tell you ways that we are going to keep Miss Jody with us forever. We're not ever going to let go of Miss Jody's memory. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So that's a hard act to follow. So what I wanted to say is that we had been approached by Mr. Christian on how we could remember Jody and how we could keep that legacy alive. And we have started an after-school program. The Ymca is now coming in after school, starting on this coming Monday, January the 7th.
Next Monday.
Oh, it's not.
No, it's not.
Oh, the 14th. Oh, sorry. Okay. The next Monday. It's coming the next Monday. Sorry. Thought it was starting this Monday. And what a better way, we thought, to honor Jody, to set up a foundation or a scholarship fund in Jody's name to help those boys and girls who may need that extra time after school. So when Mr. Christian approached me about setting up this fund, I took this to our leadership team and asked what ways they thought that they would want, or Jody would want, to have this scholarship money spent. And so we thought of the after-school program that some of those boys and girls may not be able to afford to stay after school. And we thought, what better way to show that compassion and that care that Jody had for all those boys and girls is to set up this foundation so that those boys and girls may be able to attend that could not afford it. So I talked with Mr. Christian, and he agreed that this would be a great way for those boys and girls who may need that extra attention after school that cannot afford it, or that extra homework help that they may have after school, or a tutoring program that the YMCA is going to establish for them. And so we thought, and with Mr. Christian's approval and Dr. Bailey's approval, we thought that this would be a great way to honor Jody and to spend this money and to set up this foundation just for her.
If I may. I'm not going to stand at that mic. Everybody can hear me. During my tenure as school board member for District 2, I've been impressed with a lot of people within our school system. Many people. We've got great people on all aspects in our system. But Jody, to me, was a special person. A very special person. I had the luxury of sending 5 children through one currently at Churchill Elementary, and my children are better people because of Jody. I'm a better person because of Jody. I always felt very welcome when I push the button. They buzz me in, I come into the office. Jody was always smiling, always humorous, and yes, she had candy. So, there's many words that I could say about Jody. The staff knows, the administration knows, the community knows. She has a wonderful family. Wonderful family. And that family is just not her immediate family. It's all the boys and girls that have gone through during her work at Churchill Elementary. So, the impact she had on me during my tenure as a school board member and as a parent, and the influence she had on my children, I'm going to direct the monies that I receive as a school board member to go directly to the Jody Foundation to help support, to continue to support the children in our community, to make it do good. Now that I hope people don't look at that as saying, oh, I'm just doing that for attention. No, I've spent a lot of hours in prayer about this. I've discussed it with my wife and my family, and we feel like it's the right thing to do. Because Jody was such an honorable person. She deserves that. And her name needs to carry on. And if what I receive as a school board member can go back to the kids, if I'm wrong, let me be wrong. But I challenge anyone, please, if you can, donate to this fund, because I'm entrusting the administration and the teachers at Churchill Elementary School to use this and to honor Jody in whatever aspects they see that's going to benefit the children. So I want to say thank you to Jody's family, thank you to the staff, Churchill Elementary, and to the administration of Hawkins County Schools for providing the environment to let such people as Jody to work and be amongst our children. Thank you very much.
Thank all of you for being here.
And Miss Jody Stevenson is here, her daughter and her Miss Jody's husband, Mr. Hall, who's Miss Jody's sister.
Thank all of you, especially Jody's family, for being here. What a wonderful testament to her dedication to our children in Hawkins County this is. And we certainly appreciate each of you being here.
And that concludes the resolution.
Okay, that concludes the resolution. Are there any delegations from HCEA present? I see none. Or is anyone here from the Education Committee of the Hawkins County Commission? Okay, I see no one here. We'll move on to reports, and we have 2 reports tonight. I'm going to refer the first one to Dr. Bailey on the YMC update.
Okay, the YMCA update, I'm sorry, Ms. Malone, that's what I corrected you on. I had spoken with Rhonda Helton. She's the youth coordinator for YMCA that sets up the after-school programs. And she is in the process of getting both sites at Mount Carmel Elementary and Churchill Elementary licensed. That part is in the Department of Human Services has the licensing. They want to visit the sites and they haven't done that yet. She said that part really is out of her control, but she is looking hopefully that those sites may open January 14th. Now that's not written in stone that it will, but that's her projection date. So that's the update there for the YMCA after school programs.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bailey. Our next report, I'm going to recognize Wes Smith, and he has 2 special guests with him. We've got Rebecca Baker and Gabrielle Buchanan.
Very special guest. Sorry, my Google signed me out. A couple weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago even by now, word started getting out that Hawkins County had received designation as an ACT work-ready community. Some of you on the board and some in the audience sent me texts of congratulations and different things, and while it was very much appreciated, it was sent to the wrong person. Okay, and that's why we're here tonight. I wanted to share some more information about what this actually means, how, what it is, how we got here, and really to thank a couple of the very key cogs in this wheel. So work-ready community is on the board. You've heard of the ACT College Readiness Entrance Exam, correct? All of our juniors take the ACT. I'm sure our students can tell you that's a pretty stressful day for them, about a 4-hour test. Then we turn around and give it to them again as seniors in a retake. And what the ACT does is it tells a student and potential colleges the potential for initial college success. It doesn't guarantee a high score, doesn't guarantee the student will graduate from college with honors or anything like that, but it is a very strong indication of initial college success. The ACT work-ready community is a major component of that is a National Career Readiness Certificate, which we also test several of our students through different programs in our schools. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But the work-ready community is a community-based framework. It's not a school system initiative. It's not a industrial development board initiative. It's not an industry initiative. It's all of those things tied together to link the workforce development with education. And you talk to industry people and looking to locate industry, everywhere has land relatively inexpensively. Most places have ready access to utilities, gas, electric, all of the things that an industry would need. So the real currency for industry is workforce and workforce development. And by going through the process to earn this work-ready community in Hawkins County, we've put our foot down and said, hey, we are giving students the skills. We're giving our workforce, not just students, excuse me, I have to change hats for a second, giving our workforce the skills that they need and aligns with the economic development. The work-ready community program will match individuals to jobs based on certain skills that they have, their skill levels. The foundation of the program, like I mentioned earlier, is the National Career Readiness Certificate. I call it the NCRC. That's what we refer to it as in education. We love our abbreviations, right? So it's the NCRC. And what the NCRC is it's a portable, nationally recognized certificate. So if our students earn a bronze, silver, gold, or platinum on that certificate, they can take that anywhere. It doesn't just work in Hawkins County. It doesn't just work in Tennessee. That's a national certificate for those students. Some industries in our community require the NCRC for certain positions, and some simply prefer it. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. The NCRC certificate is three. It's a battery of 3 tests: workplace documentation, applied math, and graphic literacy. What it tells employers is, based on the level the student earns, is their initial workforce readiness. See the parallel with ACT. ACT is initial college readiness. NCRC is initial workforce readiness. And to become a work-ready community, the process started not quite 2 years ago. Does that sound about right? Okay, because you have a 2-year application, and once you start the process, you have 2 years to meet all your goals, and if you don't make it, you are not certified, or you start over. I'm not exactly sure how that works, because we made it. So. Thankfully, I didn't have to find out what it means. So, as I said before, this is a major team effort, and although I'm speaking right now, I had a very, very, very minor part in this entire thing. So I want to recognize some people that had much more important parts in it than me. And I won't give these two ladies an opportunity to speak in just a second. Gabrielle Buchanan is the HR manager at Cooper Standard. Cooper Standard is a very strong industry partner of ours. Gabrielle and I have each other's cell phone numbers, and she don't mind if I text her and say, hey, give me a call, I got an idea. And we're currently working on something kind of big, but we won't let the cat out of the bag just yet. So, Rebecca Baker, she is the Hawkins County Industrial Development Board Coordinator, and she played a huge role in the work-ready community work also. In Hawkins County, as of this afternoon, there are 36 employers that support the NCRC efforts, and that's part of the requirements to be a work-ready community is that ACT set goals, and that was one of our goals. The school board, whether you know it or not, played a part in this role through our budget. We have invested to date this year approximately $2,700 for students to take this battery of tests to be able to earn those certificates. And that's something we've been doing now for about 4.5 years. Waylon Seaton, the former CTE director, played a major role in getting this off the ground. Of course, our former director, Steve Starnes, really supported the NCRC, and the work to be a work-ready community. I also would be remiss if I didn't thank our high school principals, the counselors, and staff in the high school, because they carved out the time, they identified the person, and they made the vision I had for students to have the opportunity to take the test possible. Without them, then it's just another test kids may or may not take. So I really want to thank those people for putting in the work to make that happen. We are certified as of December 2018. I'm going to show you a little banner here. It's kind of nice. The internet works, right? So this is Tennessee, and you can see the map. And the light blue counties are the counties currently not participating in the work-ready community program at all. The dark blue counties are the ones that are in process, and you can see in our region, every district in Northeast Tennessee has begun the process. And then the gold districts are the ones that have actually met the goal and the requirements. And there's beautiful Hawkins County School, Hawkins County, Tennessee. So we went gold in December. And what this does is it puts us in rare air, okay? There are currently in the United States 437 counties participating, okay? 437 counties currently in the process. 252 are certified. So we're one of 252 nationally. There are 95 counties in Tennessee with 25 participating. And so far, 14 out of those 95 are certified. So we're 1 in 14 in Tennessee. And in Northeast Tennessee, there are 2 counties certified, Hawkins County and Sullivan County. We beat Sullivan County by a couple of days. It was really, really close, but we did beat them. And it was a lot of work. There are going to be others that follow. I expect announcements for the other Northeast Tennessee counties to announce this recognition fairly soon. This is a big deal because, as you know, in Hawkins County, our employers, and they might tell you this too, the employees that travel at Cooper don't all just come from Hawkins County. You know, and the people that live in Hawkins County don't just work in Hawkins County. Some of them work in Kingsport, some of them work in Johnson City. So to make this a regional initiative has been a really exciting thing. And Lottie Rhines with the First Tennessee Development District was a major key in that. I would recognize, who's going first, ladies? Gabrielle got voluntold. This is Gabrielle Buchanan, the HR manager for Cooper Standard.
Good evening. So I'm the HR manager at Cooper Standard Automotive in Sterlinsville, Tennessee, and we are very excited that we were the first county to be Work Ready certified. But we couldn't do it without the school administrators, the school board, so we want to thank you all for that, and other communities and companies that signed on to it. We signed on to the initiative because we felt it would promote a more qualified workforce and help us find the right worker for the right job. We spend a lot of time searching for qualified candidates. We also spend a lot of time training our workforce on skill sets that they do not currently have. And we found that by partnering with our school systems, that's a way to close the skills gaps even further. And manufacturing a course is a great way to use the NCRC. It's used with applied math, reading, and locating information. We use these skills every day, and we need employees to be proficient at them. And so that shows by everyone coming together and working as a team that we could accomplish this huge goal. And we want to thank everybody for helping us do that.
Thank you.
And next we have Ms. Rebecca Baker, Hawkins County Industrial Development Board Coordinator. Did I get it all right?
Well, it's a lot more than that, but that's okay.
Aren't they all, right?
I know. My name is Rebecca Baker with the Industrial Board. As an economic developer, a strong workforce is one of the top priorities for Hawkins County. So being an ACT certified work ready community will help Hawkins County and our region stand out above the rest, and we're very proud of that. This can also help us identify the skills gap and quantify the skill level of our workers, like Gabrielle said. And it also assists our educators in building career pathways aligned to the needs of businesses and industries. Linking the workforce development to education is one of the key factors to providing an excellent workforce to our existing industries, as well as attracting new industries to the area. And the program also matches individuals to available jobs based on their skills. It also helps individuals identify the skills needed for job advancement. So that really helps within the workforce as well. Workforce development is paramount to attracting and retaining good industries in Hawkins County. And we are just very proud to say that we were the first in the region to do that. And we want to thank everyone for helping us achieve that goal. Thank you.
Yeah. I think Michelle wants a picture of you two.
Goodness. Mr. Smith.
I will, but
Come up, please.
yes, ma'am.
Dr. Bailey. Mr. Hickson. Come on.
I want to thank both Gabrielle and Rebecca again. The work they did on this was way more than I did. What we've seen as a school district is that it has allowed us to focus on helping kids learn the skills they need to be successful in work, and then provide them the opportunity to earn the certificate to prove it. And our kids are leaving with that certificate in their toolbox. And who knows what that will mean to them later. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
that going forward, that is going to mean so much, not only to our students, but also to the employers surrounding us in Hawkins County. So we really appreciate the partnership. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Moving along, we're going to move to our consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda? Item B, 1 through 12. I have a motion. Do I hear a second? Second. I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull number 3 and that's all.
Okay, so we're going to be voting on the consent agenda 1 through 12 minus number 3, section 1 of the board operations policies. Jennifer?
I have one question though. On 7, do we need to set that July date, or we're going to wait until
Okay, do we want to do it right now, or defer that to the end of the meeting?
we're going to do it now to make it through?
Okay. Okay, we need to set a July date for the Board of Education meeting, either July 2nd or July the 11th.
I'd like the 11th.
Okay, we have a request for July 11th as our meeting date. Kathy, is that okay with you? Ollie?
Great.
Jackets? So if you want to circle that July 11th.
If I may, since we're on that,
Certainly.
can we go ahead and schedule the August 1st meeting? I haven't seen I don't have our calendar in front of us. The August 1st meeting to do at Volunteer High School?
I don't see that.
If it doesn't conflict with opening of the schools. Okay.
Mr. Christian has requested our August 1st meeting be held at Volunteer High School. Is that agreeable to everyone? Kathy? Okay.
Fine.
Okay, Jennifer, would you call the roll, please?
Hicks,
Yes.
Prentice,
Yeah.
Christian,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
Elton,
Yes.
Teddy.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Hicks, would you like to address?
Yes, you know, I believe it was maybe 2 years ago now that we done just about a complete overhaul of section 1. And in reading since then, policy 1.1021, which is our student board representatives, I would like to, I know that we're up for approval of section 1 as a final reading, but I would like to request or move that we pull this particular policy for further consideration until such time as we can go. The reason is, and I'll give you the reason, this policy deals with our student board representatives, and I'm not sure if there's not some discrimination in this policy. Because state law says that, according to what I have been able to ascertain, this is state law 49-2-203 3F. It says, notwithstanding any law to the contrary, the Board of Education for each LEA that operates one or more high schools may annually select, prior to commencement of the new school year, no less than 4 high school students to serve as an advisory, non-voting member of the board. 1/2 of the students so selected shall be enrolled in a college preparatory track, and 1/2 of the students so selected shall be enrolled in the technology track. The student shall serve without compensation, but may, at the discretion of the board, be reimbursed for reasonable and necessary expenses incurred while engaged in board business. And if you read our policy, I'm not sure that the language in our policy follows state law.
Can you put that policy on the screen, please?
Yeah, whatever action we need to take, that's the only policy in section 1 that I found that we might need to take a look at to see, and we could do it in a workshop or however you want to do it, but and I can give you what I consider the conflicting, what I consider. Now, I may be totally wrong, but that's why I want us to do it in a less formal atmosphere. It says that in the way our policy states it, there's a specific group of people, according to our policy, who can be on this board, and I'm not sure that that's not in violation of what the state law says, because it doesn't go into as much detail as this policy does. And if this is what we want in our policy for sure, then that's okay. It says that, well, if you've got it pulled up, it's that we do recognize the importance of our students.
What's the number?
What's that number?
It's 1.1021.
You went right past it.
Right.
What's the student board representatives? There you go.
1.1. There you go. You got it, man. And I really don't know where this language came from. It may be something that TSBA came up with. I don't know, but I think it. And of course, you know.
I actually wrote this in conjunction with Oak Ridge Schools.
Well, I just think we need to take a different look at it myself, because it eliminates a certain group of students in our schools, I think, from being able to participate on this board. And then the other thing about it is does it give us a clear cut of how this is accomplished?
I would like to make the suggestion we table this and take it to workshop, because there could be some discrepancy. Ms. Shedden was the author of this.
Correct.
And it's been a number of years, and state law could have changed since then, so I would like to make a motion we table this.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, with you, Mr. Hicks?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries. Okay, we are to see the approval of budget amendments. Would you all like to vote on these collectively or individually?
Chairperson, I'll make the motion we approve 1 through 4.
Okay. Motion has been made to approve the budget amendments 1 through 4.
Second.
I hear a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're not going to discuss it.
Any discussion? I'm sorry, I apologize.
I mean, I hate to be the stick in the spokes, but, you know, some of this, I'm still having a problem, deciphering some of our budget amendments. And I guess my question is on, one of them in particular, number 2, there's no requested amendment amount. And then trying to decipher all of these different things, I'm assuming that some of this, I notice it says, jumps back and forth as to what this revenue is. And my question is, what is the total amount of the number 7 on the first budget amendment, which is amendment number 4, which is the requested amendment is $66,378.88. The number 7 on the revenues line says, and it's in 2 different places. It shows it up there at the top of medical insurance premium, I guess, for $38,000, and then it shows it again under 71,300 again for $6,000, and then the total amount is $53,000 as I interpret that.
Mr. Hicks, if you'll go to the top of the page, the very first number 7, under 711-00207, $9,000. So $9,000 of the $53,000 is going to regular instruction program 711-00207. Then if you go down to 71300, you'll see $6,000. If you follow your number.
Yeah, I'm following. I wasn't done, but go ahead.
That if you'll add all your number 7s on your expenditures, they should total your $53,000 revenue.
I agree, but I guess my question is, I'm trying to understand, is that due to an increase?
Yes, that's the revised January BEP. They every January, they've done this the last 2 or 3 years. The state gives us additional funds. You'll see down there, which reflects the increase in the medical insurance premium.
Is that specifically what the BEP adjustment was for?
Yes.
Okay.
Medical insurance premiums for 2019. So I went through the sections that were getting a little close, not knowing what changes were made in 2019 yet, because our open enrollment period, was in October. So employees could have changed which plans they're in. So I went through all of the medical insurance lines to determine where I thought it would fit best at this time.
Okay.
We may have to adjust again, depending on all of the changes that, what changes may have been made for 2019.
So that's the only BEP adjustment we've had, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Since we got our July final.
Okay. And then on number 2, just for my understanding, there's no specific.
There's no dollar amount that's changing there, but we are moving monies from line item to line item.
On the same, out of the same,
out of Title
category.
1. You're in Title 1,
Okay.
that's all Title 1 funds.
Well,
As you can see, some lines increase and some decrease, so you're moving from line to line.
I was just, because there really wasn't any explanation as to why that was being done.
That was to reallocate funds due to school level account amendments.
Okay. So I assume the other 2 is fine.
The IDEA, if you look at the next one, it's IDEA Part B, the state actually reduced their allocations.
Yeah, I see.
So they lost $365. And then if you look at the next one, which is IDA preschool, they actually received additional funds.
Okay. I'm good.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries. Moving on to item D, approval of purchases over $5,000. We can either do these individually or collectively.
I want to talk about number 5. Oh my goodness. And all these computers. No, I'm just kidding.
Mr. Chairperson, I'd like to make a motion we approve collectively.
Okay.
I'll second that, but I still like that.
Okay, and discussion, Mr. Hicks, on number 5.
Well, I would just like an explanation of what a lampless projector needs bulbs for. At $849 a piece, that's a high dollar bulb. That thing must be made in the far reaches of China. The thing probably cost $49 and got $800 shipping on it. If it's a lampless projector bulb, lampless says it don't have no light on it to me.
It's a good question.
I mean, I'm just curious as to why it cost $849.
The Casio lampless projectors, that is, the bulb is a misprint because there is, like you said, it's an LED projector, and the projector is $849.
See, that's the bulb. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we got into with the musical instruments before.
It's
you know,
it's
gotta be clear with this stuff because I'm reading it, and I was going to throw that one out in the middle of the yard because there's got to be a better animal than that one for a bulb. So that's the whole projector, right?
That's the whole
okay,
projector.
thank you.
It's LCD projector.
All right, I'm good. I'm good with that,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second on the floor. No further discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries. Moving on to unfinished business. We have the approval of policies on the second and final reading.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull policy 6.309.
Mr. Christian has requested to pull item under A, number 2, policy 6.309.
And I think policy 6.314.
And also, number 5, under A, policy 6.314, corporal punishment.
Mr. Chairman, at our last meeting, I made some proposals as to some changes to all of these policies. And I don't know whether anybody took the time to look at that or not, but I believe in order to bring our policies in check with what our job is as a board on policy, I think that we need to really consider all of those in order to get ourselves in a position where if under because these are very critical policies, to get ourselves in a position that if in fact we are ever have to hear some of this stuff as an appeal, it's going to kind of put us in a terrible position because if it's in our policy, we don't have no choice but to go along with what our policy says. But if it's not in our policy, then we can objectively rule on whatever might have been handed down, whether it's by the disciplinary authority or whoever might have done it. And some of the stuff that's in here is not referencing the law properly or correctly. Some of it's left out, and I think we need to take these along with the other policies that we've talked about and look at them more constructively maybe in a policy review, so that if we don't want to change them, that's okay. But I think that it's important that we at least take an effort to look at these and see if we really want them to be as entailed as they are. Because some of these policies have 8 to 10, 12 pages in them. that doesn't sound like a policy, that sounds like a workbook.
Would it be your pleasure to take these policies and defer them to the workshop?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Would you're making that kind
Yes,
of a
ma'am,
motion?
as a motion.
We have a motion and a second on the table to take these policies and defer them to a workshop. Any further discussion?
They're gonna be 1 and 2 or just one? Number 1 or 1?
All of them.
All of them.
And, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Would that be okay, Ms. Trix, if we set aside another day instead of making our workshop all about policy review?
Huh?
Yeah.
We'll have
sorry.
2 separate, meetings on, have our workshop and then have a policy workshop separate from that.
Yeah,
When are we talking?
we got a workshop
We've got
in
a
March.
workshop coming up
That's
March
that was
15th.
described as a retreat.
Retreat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't confuse me.
Okay, retreat.
Yeah.
And have a separate policy workshop to address these.
That's fine.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion on the table and a second to defer these. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Nothing under new business. Okay, I was looking on that page.
Unfinished.
We've got
business.
unfinished business, okay. Discussion on attendance, okay. New business.
Mr. Chairman, under unfinished business, on my page that I've got here, I guess was handed to me after we got here,
Discussion on-
or at some point, now maybe it was in the original. The 2 policies that I requested, 6.200 and 6.317, I would also move that we add them to our list.
Okay,
But I have some recommendations for those also.
okay, we have a motion by Mr. Hicks to move policy 6.200 and 6.317 to the policy workshop. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries. Thank you. Under new business, number 1, we have approval of overnight out-of-state field trips. For Cherokee High School, we have the band, 1 student to the All-State East Jazz Clinic, Cleveland, Tennessee, on Friday, January 25th, 2019, from 8 a.m. through Saturday, January 26th, 2019, at 9 p.m. with the chaperone Ymca. And we also have a trip for the band, 10 students to All-State East Senior Band Clinic in Gatlinburg, Tennessee on Thursday, February 7th, 2019 from 8 a.m. through Saturday, February 9th, 2019 at 6 p.m. And I believe the chaperones are Ymca, Hipshire, and another Ymca. Do I hear a motion to approve these field trips?
Each section separately.
Oh, excuse me, I missed the volunteer high school trips. We have one for the NJROTC for 4 students to the U.S. Army Marksmanship Unit in Fort Benning, Georgia, on Wednesday, January 23rd, from 1 p.m. through Sunday, January 27th. And then we have another field trip for the NJROTC for 4 students to the CMP Competition Center, Anniston, Alabama, Thursday, February 7th through Saturday, February 9th. Do I hear a motion to approve both of these for Cherokee and volunteer field trips?
I make the motion for the approval. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
One moment.
May Madam Chairman, I make the motion to, that we as the board agree to pay Dr. Reba Bailey at the same rate offered to Mac Gibson for the month of January. Dr. Bailey, and we thank you, has done an excellent job taking care of the school system during her time as interim director of schools, and has been gracious enough to extend her services to meet the adjusted starting date for Mr. Hicks. I put that in form of a motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Jennifer, call the roll, please.
Hicks,
Yes.
Craddock,
Yes.
sorry. Christian,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
Hilton,
Yes.
Shedden.
Yes, and we do thank you, Dr. Bailey.
Yes.
You've done an excellent job.
I make the motion to adjourn.
One moment, Jennifer asked me to remind everyone there is a conflict of interest statement inside the manila folder. And it is due on January 31st.
Wait, remind our ethics form for our board members, that needs to be filled out if you've got your ethics form from that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now I take your.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Right?
Oh, wait, yes.
Are you gonna set your dates, your policy dates?
Yes.
Look for the policy workshop.
Yes.
Let me talk to Chairman Larkins and, we'll get in touch with everyone, if that's okay, and set a date
What are we setting the date for?
for the policy workshop.
I thought we were gonna do it at the same.
No,
Huh?
not the retreat.
Not to retreat, we want to do a separate policy.
Oh, okay, well, that's why I kept saying,
Before
you know,
set
make sure
it,
you're clear.
policy.
Yeah.
That's fine, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay,
Thank
it's fine.
Okay, now,
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'm leaving.
thank you all for being here.
Good.